Hi, and welcome back to Politidoxy. I'm your host, Aaron Friedman. Today, we will discuss what some have deemed to be the new N word, and that is nationalism. Nationalism has become a N word of sorts, in which people hate and attack the very notion of a nation state. They believe in the new globalist idea, the new secular globalists, as you will. They believe that it is the way to go. This is the only way human beings progress, so called progress. So we need to discuss the reality of nationalism. Now, of course, we have come to know the word nationalism as a bad word by our very sophisticated elite because Hitler was a nationalist, Mussolini was a nationalist, Francisco Franco was a nationalist, the Japanese were nationalists, which is all fun and well to point out. The problem is that these anti-nationalists who say, look at these terrible people, they were nationalists, so you can't be a nationalist. These same people turn around and start shouting, yeah, we need to be nationalists for Ukraine. We need to be nationalists for Palestine. Everybody's a nationalist to one extent or another, except the globalists who are like completely out of the normalcy of human behavior. But we're talking about the normal, so-called normal day-to-day people who are boomer in their approach to politics. So they believe that nationalism is bad, but except when it comes to Palestine, Israel, or Ukraine, Taiwan, and so on. America is not allowed to be nationalist, but all these other countries, they are. So we already made a podcast episode on the subject of nationalism, exposing what really need to be said on the subject, but I will make a follow-up episode and we will discuss things that I've already said and also shed some new light on the subject. So we understand that not we understand that nationalism is bad, but they understand. They understand that nationalism is terrible, and we understand that they think so. Nationalism is bad. Why? Because Hitler was nationalist. But what they won't tell you is that the Americans who beat Hitler, they were also nationalists. The communists were nationalists. Wait, what do you mean? Well, have you ever heard of the expression Mother Russia? That is nationalism. It comes from the same place that Father Germany comes from. Nationalism. Well, nationalism started World War II, they'll let you know. It started World War I as well. Well, with World War I, it kinda did. Kinda. I guess you could say that. But it was more of a hatred towards other countries, and everybody wanted it. They were waiting for it to happen. And there were so many other things that could have, if gone right, World War I wouldn't have happened. There are so many, I can't explain everything right now, but you could just look up these facts. It's very interesting. Of letters that could have, if sent in time, would have prevented the war. Coincidences that if things were to happen a different way, everything could have been avoided. There were so many things that could have been avoided. So many mistakes. Like, I think there are like 20 or so major mistakes that even if one of them were not to have happened, World War I would probably have not happened. Anyway, we have gotten off subject here. So everybody hated each other. So you could say it was nationalistic in a way. Yes, I guess you could say that. But now let's go to World War II. World War II. If the common denominator of World War II is nationalism, then explain me this. Why didn't Francisco Franco join the war? He was just as nationalistic as Benito Mussolini and Adolf Hitler. But for some reason, he doesn't get that bad of a rap. And he did not join in World War II. So that begs the question. If nationalism is the common denominator, then they would have joined on the Axis powers, but he didn't. So it can't be the common denominator. Nationalism is frowned upon because it has been blamed as the start World War II, when in actuality the start of World War II only came in fruition because the European powers decided that they would appease Hitler, and they enacted strict rules that Germany were to abide by, but they didn't back it up with force, and they continuously let him transgress on the conditions. And once the hungry tyrant got what he wanted, he started World War II. He definitely was a nationalist. But the nationalism didn't start World War II. It was definitely some kind of factor, but it can't be the common denominator. Furthermore, we also have to, as previously stated, state again that nationalism defeated the Nazis. So nationalism is an idea, a good idea, because in my opinion, nationalism is the only thing that could defeat racism. Now, if you're recoiling in horror, how can somebody say something so terrible? Let me explain. Nationalism is an idea that the nation is in charge in sovereignty over its own government. The nation is the sovereign. Human beings are fundamentally tribal. So, in order to combat the tribalism that we have, we must extend to the highest denominator. We need to use the largest metric in order to encompass as many people as possible. So, what would that be? Well, not religion, because if we were to divide on religion, the Catholics, the Protestants, the Jews, and Muslims will all start fighting, and whoever wins, they would be the predominant religion. But it won't necessarily mean that we become a diverse so-called state. And diversity is cringe. Don't get me wrong. If it happens naturally, well, that's just how it is, No problem with natural diversity. But when it's enforced, we have a problem with that. Anyway, back to the main subject. That we need to be able to include as many people as possible. Okay, so if we do it by race, well, a lot of people will be excluded. If we do it by ethnicity, again, a lot of people are excluded. Any other metric you want to use, any other criteria you want to use, it will always exclude people except when it comes to nation. That regardless of religion, ethnicity, race, characteristics, you name it, we're all one nation. It's us against the world. Forget about skin color and all the other things. We are all in this together. That is why it is the cure to racism. Because it destroys the very notion that race is needed in the concept of being a cohesive society. We can be a cohesive society just by being one nation. But other people, they're still very squeamish on the idea. Well, nationalism, well, the Nazis, they were nationalists, so I don't know, I don't feel right. Look, take any idea and take it to the extreme. You will pervert it at its core. That's just how it is. The Nazis took an idea, perverted it, and now everybody is squeamish about it. But in reality, we shouldn't be. It's something that is actually very good and beautiful. Furthermore, on the subject of nationalism, that Benito Mussolini did not deport his Jews, his Jewish citizens, to Nazi Germany only after tremendous amount of pressure from Hitler, and when he has lost a lot of his power, he lamented and gave a portion of Italy's Jews to Germany, but not all. He protected his Jewish citizens. But why? Why protect his Jewish citizens? I would argue specifically because he was a nationalist. He understood that the Jewish population in Italy are a core part of the Italian nation. The Italians, or better said, the Romans, from whom the Italians descended, they conquered the Jews 2,000 years beforehand and brought the Jews back to Italy. So the Jews were 2,000 years in Italy, and he saw that as a core part of Italian heritage, of the Italian history. Why would he give up something that is fundamentally Italian to the Nazis? So, in stark irony, Benito Mussolini protected the Jewish population of Italy only because he was a nationalist and saw them as part of Italian heritage. Well, isn't that an interesting thing to think about? We are a nation, and like crazy. America is not an idea. America is a nation that is built upon a set of ideas. But to import all these new cultures, so-called cultures, into the United States is only destroying the nation. Well, there's another thing that I could touch on. Yes, you know what? I will. It is nationalism versus patriotism. And most people will be like, wait, what do you mean nationalism versus patriotism? Patriotism is good and nationalism is bad. No, I would actually argue the opposite. Ooh, now that's something controversial. Nationalism is for the nation. Patriotism is for your country. Guess freaking what? How many atrocities has the United States committed in the name of patriotism? 1.6 million people dead in Iraq. Patriotism. The overthrow of the Libyan government. Patriotism. Afghanistan, nation building. Patriotism. Not nationalism, mind you. Patriotism. So, in my eyes, I'm not a patriot in the modern sense of the word, because they argue that patriotism is giving money to Israel, giving money to Ukraine, and giving money to all these other countries. That is patriotism. I'm not a patriot in that sense of the word. Maybe in the technical sense of the word, yes, I'm a patriot. But I'm a nationalist first, because the country has been perverted. The elites control the country. To be a patriot, in the modern sense of the word, were to be a patriot in what they want you to be. And that is, follow their directions. You are a patriot, then you have to follow your country. Well, no, I follow my nation. And my nation is sick and tired of these tyrants and these dictatorial regimes that we have set up throughout the states. A bunch of little dictators everywhere, controlling our every move, making sure that we say the right things. No, I don't think so. I am a nationalist first, before a patriot. Because this nation is sick and tired of these disgusting, absolute, complete degenerates. Well, I guess we can end this episode here. This was fun. Let the hate comments roll in. This is going to be a lot of fun watching people melt down because we've triggered them. We have triggered what they understand to be the norm. They believe that nationalism is terrible. Ooh, nationalism. It's that dirty word. But to our ears, it sounds pretty swell. I thank you very much for listening to this episode. Please, the first thing you can do is share. Sharing this episode, more people hear the message. That's awesome. Second thing, leave 5 stars if you're listening on Spotify and follow. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe and like, share, comment. And if you want to follow me, you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on Aaron Friedman on Instagram or Aaron Politidoxy on Twitter, or you can email me at politidoxy@gmail.com. Again, I thank you very much for listening to this episode, and remember, my fellow radicals, stay political.